Hey, we are live, guys. I am here with an amazing group of people. We are going to get into who they are very, very soon. But first, I want to actually tell you what happened over the weekend in case you're not aware. So, what actually happened is on Friday, we all heard pretty crazy in the news that Sam Altman was fired. And what the heck? Like, that man built so much of OpenAI into what it is today. And then right behind him, an hour later, Greg Brockman tweeted and said, I resigned. And then over the weekend, we heard so much. We heard that OpenAI actually had 500 employees threaten to quit if the board didn't resign. So OpenAI began to get so much backlash about what they were doing, letting Sam Altman go. It was literally one of the worst news stories I've seen in the technology industry. So they got so much backlash. So many employees threatened to quit if the board didn't resign. And then I think last night at 1 a.m., the CEO of Microsoft tweeted and said, we've got Sam Altman as our new CEO of a whole new AI division. So now Microsoft has hired Sam Altman, which is very smart, and Greg Brockman. And then we've got the former CEO of Twitch, I believe, now leading OpenAI, which is pretty shocking because they haven't had the best history for being the first to market with features and what we're looking at, which is a very quickly accelerating industry and technology. So to keep up, we saw good things from Sam Altman. We saw good things from Greg Brockman. Those people represented OpenAI so well. So this is really a shock that it even happened. And we're here to talk about what's going on. We got comments coming in. Brian, who left an amazing comment, I want to read it later. We'll give him a shout out. Said that Microsoft just bought OpenAI for $0. Yes, they did, technically, when they got Greg Brockman and Sam Altman. So I want to kick it off. We got some amazing panelists here. I'll start with you, Josh. Tell us what you do and a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I run a company I started called Smart AI Ventures, which has a number of different initiatives. The idea is to help businesses in a myriad of different ways. Julia, we know each other through one of them, which is Robot Revolution. That is my AI copywriting platform that I started with Laura Betterly, who's also here on the call. And so, just helping a lot of different businesses to streamline operations, reduce their overhead, increase profits, all of that good stuff. As I mentioned to you a moment ago, 5 minutes before we got on this live stream, I was talking to somebody, and our theory is that the board of directors at OpenAI saw how quickly Elon Musk was tanking Twitter, or X, and they said, hold my beers, we can do it faster. And in one day, they lost $80 billion market valuation, piss off every one of their investors, and have about 75% of all their employees ready to walk out the door if they don't leave. So that is a pretty monumentally fast crash and burn.
Monumental. You said the right word. Exactly.
It really comes down to three people. Now, you mentioned Sam and Greg, but there's a third person that's really instrumental in this. His name is Ilya. And when OpenAI was started, it was actually under a different name. They called it Codex at the time. And Ilya is big brain, big picture, want to change the world, anti-consumerism, this is the future kind of person. He seems like an odd kind of guy that doesn't want money or restrictions or to answer anybody. He just wants to focus on the research and the data to do futuristic stuff where you could power entire cities and whatnot. And you have Sam. He comes from Y Combinator. It's a VC route. Yeah. He's looking at this and saying, if we're going to get to that point, which we would love to do, we need to support ourselves. You need to keep the lights on. The only way to do that is to bring in money. And in order to bring in money, we have to give companies and people what they want. And so the more that it was leaning into that direction, it seemed like it was pushing Ilya away because this was the exact opposite. So when he went to the board, who was with Greg and Sam, they were the other two members that were part of OpenAI who were part of the board, as well as three people that weren't. He convinced the board that, that OpenAI had been going in a different and wrong direction, and that Sam and Greg had been lying over and over. And he kept referencing brand new GPTs, little micro programs that you can make with a simple prompt that were just introduced about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And he kept coming back to one called Laundry Buddy, which somebody said, hey, just an app so I know how to wash my clothes. And for some reason, it seems like this one little GPT in particular pissed Ilya off to the point where he went to the board and said, we got to get Sam out of here. And that seems like it's really where everything started to hit the fan. So that's kind of where it started from. And I don't want to hog this whole discussion, but that's basically the best primer I can give in about 2 minutes.
Yeah. So what you just identified, Josh, is kind of like the red herring I think we all have been looking for. You did a great 360 circle there where you talked about this person, right? Ilya. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And so he's the guy that basically ousted Sam Altman. But it's funny, right? Because now he's deeply regretting this.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes you get when you get what you ask for, you know. But I think it's more than just what I think it's what Josh said, but I think it's more than that, because you got to remember, is OpenAI is actually owned by a nonprofit, and the nonprofit has, so of course its goal isn't profit. Its goal is to be, you know, pure and grow the technology. And there is a lot of issues that I believe Ilya has as far as safety. And in releasing different pieces of it. I mean, and let's face it, we all have the hacker mentality, and we're always trying to make it do things that it's not designed to do, and answer questions that it's not supposed to answer. And you know, most of us are smarter than the programmers. I mean, they're always circling back to another version of, you know, the Dan prompt or something that comes in that allows OpenAI to actually do what it wasn't supposed to do. And there's a lot of different things you can look at it and go, well, you know, I don't like riding a bicycle with training wheels on it. That's me. But you know, if I have an evil 3-year-old who is in Manhattan, I'm going to want that evil 3-year-old to have training wheels. So these are really existential questions that have not really been answered well, and I think it's smart to answer it now before, like, oops, you know, way out of the bottle, and it might be too far anyway. So who knows? But I think that your basic issue is the guys who want to let everything go and have, you know, people like me figure it out and whatnot, and then the guys that want to rein it in as it grows. And I think we're past the point where you can really rein it in. I think it's way farther than that, because there's way smarter.
I think in an existential sort of discussion, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think on a strategy planning session of what just happened, Ilya did not think this through, because Microsoft is the largest investor. They invested about $13 billion. That's not all in cash. It's cloud credits. It's computing power. But they also basically said, we know you're burning through cash. You're losing $10 million a month. You have a blank check because of what you're doing and what this is going to do for us in the future. And they know a few years from now, it's going to make Microsoft a $100 billion company. Microsoft says, just, you're going to get the money. You don't worry about it. In exchange for owning 49%, all of your engines, all of your records, everything that you are powered on, we own. They're ours. So this means that OpenAI could not just go to Google or could not just go to Meta. They're kind of stuck. And Sam Altman was in a position where he said, I can go out tomorrow morning and get $80 billion from venture capitalists in minutes.
Yeah.
And I know enough that I can build this company back up with Greg's help and with the developers. And at that point, you had 500 plus of the 700 developers say, the board goes or we all go. And Microsoft did not want to let their $13 billion investment go away and let Sam go. So the details of what the negotiations and terms look like haven't really been made available yet, but they realized we can bring over all these developers. Instead of spending months getting a team in place to do this, we can do it in minutes. And so that's why it was negotiations until 1 a.m. And from what it seems like, one of the big holdoffs is that Sam and Greg, they didn't want to answer to somebody. They didn't want a boss. They're looking at this like it might be golden handcuffs. I'm sure they're going to be compensated incredibly well. They're never going to have to worry about money, but they have the strong mentality of, I don't want to work for somebody else. I never have.
You know what really sucks? Microsoft's going to own it. And I'm just saying, as somebody who's been on, Windows 3.1, Windows 95, it's Microsoft is not the guy. I mean, they're very good for the masses, but they're not very accurate. They're not, their technology is always behind. They're always slower. I hate the way Edge tries to take over everything on your computer. It's like, I don't want to use Edge. I'm a Chrome user,
Yep.
F you. You know what I mean? So, can you imagine that? But I also don't think that the game is over, because if you remember, and I'm older than you guys, no surprise. And I remember when I used to go to Alta Vista for my searches, or Yahoo, before Google actually existed. And AOL was the shit, right? So, I look at where AOL is now. I mean, same thing. MySpace before Facebook/Meta. So this, you've got Anthropic with Claude, which I like a lot better in certain instances. I'm not sure if this game is really over or not. Absolutely OpenAI is ahead of the game, and they're making lots of mistakes in the last few days. But who knows where it's going to end up?
Yeah, it's definitely not over, because them hiring Emmett Shear, who famously for ruining Twitch, in my opinion, he was all about monetization on that platform, and he absolutely drove monetization hardcore into Twitch. And I think that in the future, the very short-term future, we're going to see a lot of reversals to the stuff that OpenAI has implemented, especially like GPT-4 Turbo being cheaper than GPT-4 and being a better output and being able to take in more tokens. That was one of the calls I was just like, wow, that's insane for them to do. And then we see this happen. So it's really interesting to see how OpenAI is going to start to monetize all of their features and really build out tools specifically for businesses, because that's the best way for them to monetize it, is just continue to double down on that and get more tools in people's hands. So I definitely don't think they're out at all.
Yeah, I think GPTs are a game changer. Not the plugins. The plugins were kind of lame. Except
no, that's what I was going to say. Laura and I, for our private mastermind group, we do a live stream call once a week, and in there we do a lot of content training. And last week, I demonstrated how to create your own GPTs. And if you don't know, it's very simple right now. You can only give a short prompt and ask them to do a couple of things, not much, but give it 2-3 years, they're going to replace SaaS companies left and right. But what I demonstrated was with a 3-sentence prompt, I created an app that I can upload a picture of food, and it would not only identify what it is, but give you full nutritional breakdown, like when you look in the back of food packaging. And so I did that with a picture of burger and fries. And it came out perfect. It knew how many ounces the burger patty was, the amount of French fries that were in the container. It was really impressive. Well, this weekend I stress tested it. I have a GPT on my phone, and I wanted to find some really obscure food that would be a challenge. So my girlfriend and I, we went to an Ethiopian restaurant, and I was showing it different platters that it's really hard to tell what Ethiopian food looks like. It looks like just different kinds of mush. And I was thinking that it was just going to tell me it was different kinds of curry, because that's kind of what it looks like. No, it knew exactly what everything was. And it gave me a full nutritional breakdown of everything. It was really impressive. And I said, if that can be done with 3 sentences, I can't even begin to imagine how good this is going to be in 6 months from now.
I created one last night to do a social media calendar with in a table form, and then to use DALL-E 3 to make the images. So it would have, so you could turn it into a Google Sheet or a CSV and then upload it, and pretty simple. You hashtags, your titles, and the correct imagery, and it, with the right questions for the product or the area, and that will be helpful. Called it Social Butterfly.
Yeah, I think it's amazing where this will still go, even though, we see in front of us probably the biggest shakeup that ChatGPT and OpenAI has ever had. But it's like, will this technology still move forward? I think the question is, will it still move forward at the same pace? And it's interesting because, to your point, Jeff, one of the tweets I saw from Shear was, well, we saw Altman take it up to a 10 or a 13 speed. It's my goal not to go exactly to 0, but to go to 1 or 2. And I'm just thinking to myself, that is not the right answer when you're building the world's fastest adapted consumer technology. What do we think about that?
Google's going to take complete advantage of that. Like without a doubt, like if they're going to go down to a 1 from their 12 or 13, it's insane. That's, oh man. And Anthropic's getting better.
You're going to have to up their game because Bard is like,
yeah. But to that same point though, I mean, for years, I ran my business, most of it on Skype. And then the pandemic happens and nobody's working in their offices. And Skype took their foot off the accelerator. They hadn't invented or revolutionized or updated anything. So here comes Zoom. And out of nowhere, they just take over full market share. And who even knows what Skype is anymore? So when you lose focus like that and you stop trying to keep up with demand, this is what happens. A competitor can come back, can just take off and lap you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's what makes the times we're in so exciting because a small startup or someone with a good idea still can get market share if they answer and solve a problem quickly. I don't think that's always the case.
This also goes to talk about when you are in that startup world, how do you structure your board? Because Sam Altman didn't have a single share. He didn't have a single point of equity. He controlled nothing. He was the public face of the company. He was a great brand ambassador. He was one of the founders, and he was key in getting the $80 billion valuation and all the investor money. He was key in bringing in all those venture capitalists, and he left with nothing in one phone call, essentially. That would never happen to Mark Zuckerberg. From day one, he made sure he retained full control of everything. And whether he's made the best decisions or not over the years, that's irrelevant. He could not be kicked out that easily.
I think he got that skin in the game. You know what I mean? And he didn't have any skin in the game from that standpoint. And I believe he should have had it. For whatever reason. Yeah.
That's where that nonprofit versus for-profit conversation comes into play. And I feel like it really complicates things because, Elon Musk, one reason he stepped away from OpenAI was, well, I don't see this going in the direction I initially set, which was a true nonprofit. And Microsoft came in, totally pointed the ship in that profit direction, now even more so. So it's interesting. That's really muddied the waters between somebody like Sam Altman, who should have had equity. I completely agree. I think he should have had more skin in the game. But was that the goal even of the OpenAI entity? What do we think about that, the nonprofit versus the for-profit play?
I don't know. I'm a capitalist at the end of the day. I think nonprofits are great for churches and for that kind of stuff. But I don't think that things that eventually will have a commercial end belong in nonprofits. I mean, I think that if you're going to do nonprofits, make drug companies nonprofits. Because then they'd really serve the world, right? Wouldn't have Pfizer and all these guys pushing whatever they're pushing.
Great point.
So, I mean, I think that's more likely a better candidate, in my opinion, for nonprofit. But you're not going to see that happen.
What's interesting about this, I totally agree. I'm a capitalist too. If you're going to take institutional money, you need to be for profit. If you're going to take little mom and pop donations, sure, you can be nonprofit. But as soon as, Wall Street venture capitalist firms come in, they're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They're doing this to make money. So if you accept their money, you need to accept those terms. And,
they weren't vision. I mean, if they really wanted to be a nonprofit, then their mission statement would have been clear enough and that would have stopped them from taking the institutional money. As soon as they did that, they muddied up the whole issue of nonprofit. And, you have a nonprofit being run by a nonprofit. I mean, God, it's like, it's like having, a rooster, watching the hen house, making sure that they, that they don't sleep around. I mean, it's just not gonna. It's just too antipathetic to what the purpose is that it would ever work, in my opinion.
Making so much of their code open source kind of bit them in the ass in a number of ways. So if anybody isn't aware, a lot of OpenAI is open source, and you had a shitload of startup companies come in and they would take a bit of code, slap a new label on it, and say, look, we're a $20 a month subscription service because we can make you a social media calendar. And just a few days before they announced the GPTs would be available, they sent out a huge legal notice to every one of their developers that's using the code like this and says, no. According to the terms of service, you have to make real meaningful changes that are substantially different. You are forbidden from taking our code as it is and throwing a label on it and charging money for it. It has to be given away for free or you can't do it at all. And we'll see you in court. And then there was something like 3 days later, they had their conference where they announced GPTs and that they were going to be restructuring how some of the code worked because they wanted to crack down on this. And now they've got nothing. Now that code technically was owned by Microsoft because as soon as Microsoft said we're giving you $10 million or $10 billion in that first round, in exchanges, we want to own the rights to that code. You can still make it open source, but those libraries are ours.
Yeah, there's a few different things I want to hit on real quick. Well, one, the open letter has now reached over 700 signatures, which is pretty much their whole staff, and Microsoft is saying that they'll hire everybody. So, I mean, basically, they are acquiring OpenAI if that goes through. So that's gonna be really interesting.
That really sucks.
And the next thing would be, I don't think that you can have innovation through nonprofit. I don't think there's enough money behind it for you to have true innovation. And I think that the moment that they split from that nonprofit is when you saw like actual exponential growth for OpenAI. And so if they were to go to just a strictly nonprofit, even with Emmett Shear, which I don't think that's ever going to happen, I think that they'll just continue to cascade into oblivion while we have other AIs completely just dominate the market. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that's going to play out.
That is crazy. It's up to 700. Last I heard this morning, it was 500. So like you said, Jeff, they're basically acquiring the entire staff. And I think Byron's here. Like, this is an acquisition for $0.
Yeah.
Unreal.
That could be the case, or there might be some sort of real interesting new backdoor deal to keep OpenAI together the way it is. I mean, I'm trying to put on my Kreskin hat, but it's not working real well.
What'll be interesting is how much Microsoft is going to be able to use AI to improve their existing products. Because it's been, 30 years and I still can't drag and drop an image in Microsoft Word without reformatting the entire document.
You're doing it on a Mac, that's why.
But for people that live in Excel and are doing financial forecasting, for instance, for a living, that's going to make their lives a whole lot easier, where you can predict how much product you need to order and have prepared and delivery to dispatchers and whatnot. I think there's going to be some significant upgrades to a lot of their apps. Now, I don't know about the next version of Windows being great, but I think the Microsoft Office suite, we're going to see some big improvements.
Let's talk about this for a second too. I think this is a really good point. I saw this on Twitter basically within minutes, I think, of Sam Altman's announcement. People just surrounding him to support him, and then the feeling where he himself was actually just genuinely surprised by it happening. Like, what happened to him? Our own CEO said a really great point. I tried to get him on the live with us, but he's too busy building a great product. So it's okay. But he said, this is a bigger oust than when Jobs was ousted from Apple, because Sam built much of OpenAI's success and then he got outed. So it's pretty crazy what happened here. And I think this point, Greg Eisenberg on Twitter said, I steer completely clear of venture capital for this reason. 1 minute you're in, the next you're out. You work for the directors, not for yourself. How do we feel about this? And I know most of us here are entrepreneurs. Laura, Josh, you run your own company. Jeff, you're our AI director. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I'm a partner in Continent Scale. Laura, I'll start with you. How do you feel about this?
I took my early my earlier agency public, okay, through a merger, and I did raise money. And the bankers naked short sold my stock, which means they drove the price of my stock down to pennies before a convertible note came through. So they were trying to take, and I walked. So did everybody else. It's the worst thing I ever did. I wouldn't, not to mention all the regulatory things that you have to do and all the extra reporting and whatnot. I went in, I jumped into a shark tank, and I didn't realize how sharp the teeth were. And horrible thing to do. I mean, for some people, they don't have a choice, or their businesses are bigger. We weren't big enough, but it was not a great solution. You were. I mean, at least on a personal basis, I was worth $13 million one day, and the next day I was worth.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
All you have left is the stock certificates. And you can't even use them as toilet paper because you get paper cuts, and then you end up with some sort of rash, whatever. It's terrible. It's not the way to go.
That's our quotable for the day. You can't even use your stock as toilet paper. Josh, how do you feel about VC?
Having a certain percentage of money that you raise, let's just say that Sam Altman had said, I want to be able to keep 1% of what I make, of what I bring in. That right there would have been enough money that he could stay retired on for life. That's not shares. That would be a royalty. And if that were in place, he'd be really well off now. But he had said on Friday that he barely makes enough to pay for his bills. So imagine that, being responsible for raising $80 billion and having trouble paying your rent. I think this whole thing was just set up in the worst possible way, and he left himself so vulnerable that this happened. And I think it's a good lesson for all of us, everybody else who is an entrepreneur, to know how to cover your ass. CYA.
Consequences. I mean, it just, I don't know how many times in my career I said, seems like a good idea to want to shoot myself afterwards. So, I think that from a strategy standpoint, all of us would be smart to look at, consequences of decisions, especially decisions that involve money or equity, and there you go.
Absolutely.
I think that the goals definitely need to align if you're going to do VC. Like, if you're a big enough corporation that where you absolutely align with your investors, and it's something that's going to be exponentially fast in growth, then your only route to actually grow quickly is to accept that VC funding. But if those goals don't align, you're not crystal clear on them, and you don't have proper terms in place, then it's a nightmare.
Agreed.
And I do love the bootstrap mentality, though. Like, we're a bootstrap company ourselves, and it's fantastic not having that VC funding. So
that's where I would land too. Is like, I think Russell Brunson said it. I only want to take funding from my customers, and I think that's where Continent Scale, especially in how I've functioned the last 10 years, is like when you take money from a board, you are indebted to those people. And they kind of now rule your life, your decisions, what you do. They control and they limit innovation. But if you're listening to your customers, then you actually have to do what's best for the company, because those customers will not be back if you don't. Yeah. And so that's where it's like the direction of VC itself, to me, is so questionable, just because it puts your compass, I think, in the wrong place. And that's why, one of the reasons that confidence fail. They'll never take money.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying a lot of stupid spending. My first venture was PC DJ. It was the first dual MP3 player for DJs. And started in my kitchen. I found a guy in Sweden who had programmed the software, and we bootstrapped it for a long time. But then we started getting money and I would go tour, right? Because I would be with the equipment, and when I come back and there would be like 200 people in the office, I'll be like, what are these guys doing? They had the most BS job titles, like the guy in charge of content on Tuesday for Europe, and, in his underwear, I don't know, whatever it was. And they'd be like, who are you? I'm like, I'm the president. Like, who are you? I mean,
hold on. I'm the president.
Yeah, that's right. Like, who are you? And what am I paying you? Yeah, that
legitimately is.
That one too. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, but we did get to hang out with rock stars and tour the world, and that was fun. But yeah, it was weird. It's definitely not what you. Yeah, I have just never had I know people have had good experiences. I've never had good experiences with that.
With Sam Altman, I mean, his whole thing, if you actually go back and rewatch the last speech they did where he announced GPTs and all that, he kind of reiterates a few times that they want to make this the best AI platform that they ever could have, and that they want to get to the next level of AI, AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. That's the one that's in every sci-fi movie where it seems like it actually has emotions and can talk to you and have full conversations. And that was always the goal, to get to AGI. And he kept saying, Sam would keep saying that he wants to get this in the hands of as many people as possible, because he wants you to break it so they can build it back and make it better and add the features that mean the most to you. And while they're still going to be going in one direction, they're going to be getting there by taking these little detours, which allows for more consumer products and whatnot. And it seems like Ilya just absolutely hated everything about that idea. And we see he hit the self-destruct button.
Yeah, we'll see what happens to him. My prediction is that Sam's going to end up back, and I think Ilya's going to be gone. That's my prediction. I think it's going to take 14 days. I think it's going to take 14 days or less for that to occur. Now,
I mean, to not have to
get money on it, but it seems reasonable to me that would be the way to go.
For them to take the
and he's covering his own ass by signing that petition.
I mean, for them to just reclaim the name, the IP, the trademark, kick Ilya and the rest of the board out, and leave all the employees in place is the fastest, easiest way to have the least downtime and make sure things continue to run smooth.
Yeah.
But I think we're watching this podcast.
To see if Sam leaves Microsoft at this point, I don't know how he would. I think Satya is very excited that they have Sam.
Oh, yeah.
And they even gave Sam the CEO title. And he's got his best buddy, Greg Brockman, in this new AI team. So I bet money on it. I don't think we'd see Sam coming back to OpenAI unless they made a tremendous offer.
Yeah, and they would have to give him back. He would get equity. He would get enough money to pay his bills. I'm sure he would get, more than one board seat. There would have to be some concessions to make it happen. But, they're going to have to take a look at it. What's the greatest good for the technology and what they want to do. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that he'll realize that he works for Microsoft.
Yes. I think Microsoft.
That's what I was saying earlier. That's what I mentioned earlier about how this could very well turn out to be a pair of golden handcuffs.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Josh.
Yeah. Time will tell. Somebody said in our comments, maybe the OpenAI name will change to Y because Twitter is X.
It'd be funny if they renamed it to Twitter.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
Yeah, we could have some fun with that, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Contest. Oh.
Yeah, no, this is crazy, and just the speed at which this has all come together since Friday. And all weekend I'm sitting there refreshing my feeds, and there's always a new update. So I'm glad that we were able to get on this call and kind of explain, talk about this from different viewpoints, talk about what led up to this, what's happening, and kind of it's so easy to get confused and get information wrong. So being able to come and talk like this, at least for myself, has been really helpful. So I appreciate you setting this up. When we spoke late last night, it was just like a last second idea that we had. So I'm glad it worked out.
It was. I love it. Well, I think like what started this out, and real quick to this tweet I have shared, I just have to point out what Elon Musk said down there, that now they're going to have to use Teams. That's a good one.
Pretty funny.
But to your point, Josh, I think you and I love it because we actually had very differing opinions. I was trying to find it because I was going to bring it up. And this is what prompted this roundtable. You and I had such different opinions on should OpenAI be transparent about why they outed Sam. And maybe it comes back to Ilya. Maybe it's because of what he said, which he now regrets. Or maybe it's something deeper, and maybe even, do we want to say potentially evil, which I've heard myths of? I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not saying that. But
they say about every argument, there's this person's side, that person's side, and then the truth.
Yes. Right.
So will they ever be open and honest about it? I don't even know what that means, because both parties are going to have their own version of what that is. And then who knows what the board was told and what the board, how each of the other three members of the board interpreted that. Because remember, there were 6 members, Greg and Sam, Ilya, and 3 non-employees, and they needed 4 votes. So Ilya needs to get all 3 of the other people on board in order to make this happen. So what were they told? How was this perceived? And I'm sure it wasn't one phone call randomly. I'm sure this had been something that they had been hearing a little birdie in their ear for a long time. So how long has this been going on? I don't think we're really ever going to know all of that.
Yeah. And my point was, I think they should be transparent and honest. And Josh is like, good luck hoping and wishing. That's never going to happen. And then we got somebody in the comments that said it's OpenAI, not open honest.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I think that this is where whistleblowers come in. There could be an anonymous source of what really happened. Wouldn't surprise me with all the whistleblowers that are out these days. I just think
I don't even know if you could call it a whistleblower. I mean, how soon before Netflix does a special on this and they're interviewing everybody involved? I'm sure this is already in the works as of right now. They're going to interview those other board members, and those 3.
Who's going to play Sam Altman?
They're already in his
Jesse
house.
Eisenberg. Who knows?
We need like a dual documentary where it goes over like Twitter's collapse and then also OpenAI's at the same time, and like going back and forth, changing perspectives would be really cool.
And they're going to call it. They're going to call it life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2020. Now 2020. Okay, I have a T-shirt that says 2020. It's got like a review, and it has 1 star and it says wouldn't recommend. But it's kind of similar in that respect. You're like, wow, how many different ways can we blow things up?
Yeah,
I feel like OpenAI asked that.
No, well, I mean, in all seriousness, they are going to do a documentary. I'm sure, Hulu and Netflix are already working on it right now. They're getting people on the phone to who can get over there with the camera the fastest. They're going to interview the other 3 board members. And if those 3 people have basically the same story of this is what Ilya's been telling us all this time and for months, and this is where we finally realize it's the last straw, then we're going to know what he was actually saying. And there could be legal repercussions if he was lying. It most certainly will end his career, whatever that would be these days, if this didn't already end it. So, we'll get more information when that happens. But for right now, it's just how can we best keep on top of what's happening? And am I still okay to use ChatGPT, or should I be looking at alternatives? Because there's no reason for me right now to keep making GPTs or to teach people how to use it, or to teach clients how they can use it to make themselves customer service bots, for instance, if they may not be here next week.
Yeah. And that's a great note. I want to end on that by asking each one of us what we see as the future. That was a big question we had from the people watching that were sending in. We sent out an email today to our list. that was a big question, is should I actually still use ChatGPT? So I want to start with you, Laura. Should people still use ChatGPT?
You know, I think so. I mean, look, I use ChatGPT. I also use Claude. All right. I don't think I want to get set. You know, I mean, and you can even use Poe and see all the different AIs available to you. I think that each one of them has their advantages and disadvantages. But for me, for $20 a month, you know, come on, it's $20 a month. So if I learn a little bit more and I make GPT and it goes south, am I going to cry? Is it going to end my life? No. You know, I mean, and I think it's got enough adoption that it would be stupid for them to let it go down. It might absolutely affect how quickly things are going to escalate and new innovation. I think that maybe we have gotten to the point where this is as much it's going to innovate for right now because of the changes. But it doesn't mean that what exists, and Microsoft won't let it go down. You know, it's just not going to happen. Is it gonna kind of suck going forward? Possible, you know. But I think you know. And do you think bugs will be fixed as quickly? Probably not. But I still think it works. I think it will continue to work. And again, you know, I also of the you know I never put all my eggs in one basket. Never did. So you need to know what else is out there and all the tools are out there. But you know that API is backing a lot of other stuff too. It's just not going to go down that quickly. It would actually create I think an economic event that would actually hit the economy more than you're really thinking going forward. So they're going to make that work. Again, innovation. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but what we've got, I think, is pretty solid.
Good thoughts. Josh, let's move to you on that question.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have different uses for Poe and for Anthropic as well. With content creation, with different use cases, there's the pros and cons. I still use chat most of the time, so I'll continue to, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to find my most important conversations in chat. I'm going to back them up. I'm going to have a local copy of them. Especially anything I do with a client, I'm going to make sure that I have a local copy of it just in case.
You can export it, put it in Typing Mind. They have an actual database that you can use. Typing Mind is a third party. It allows you to use. It's just a better interface. It doesn't have GPTs in it, but it's got a lot of other things that make it easier to use, and you can put in your key for not only OpenAI, but also for Anthropic, so you can all use it in one interface. I enjoy the tool. It's a pretty badass, actually.
Typing Mind. Very cool. Jeff, let's move to you on that question. How do you think people should still use ChatGPT?
I'm biased because we have our own platform, right? But I mean, yes, I don't think that OpenAI is going anywhere at all. I think that they're going to stick around. I think it's dumb if Microsoft decides that they want to, you know, either not fund it further or they don't want to accept more investors. I think that OpenAI is in a position right now where they dominate market share, and it's just way too valuable to give up. And even if they were to like bring on the complete team over to Microsoft, they still have to build that reputation back up in the market to gain that trust for developers. And I don't think that they'll be able to do that at the speed at which OpenAI was able to. As far as the trust factor with OpenAI going forward, that's going to be a little bit shaky. But I mean, all I got to say is that content at scale, we got our own agents and they work really well. I'm just kidding.
We love you.
Yeah, I had to plug it in. I was trying not to, and I was like, I got excited. Let's go. But yeah, I mean, I don't see it going anywhere at all.
And I want to take a minute to answer this question because, to your point, Jeff, we actually got somebody in the comments asking, how does this affect us at Content at Scale, which I think is a great question. And I'll tell you a little bit about the story of Content at Scale. If you're not familiar, for those watching, some of you probably are. We got 40 plus people here right now, which is really cool. But over the last year, our founder, Justin McGill, who comes from 20 years of building marketing businesses, marketing and SEO, he asked himself, how can I build an AI writer that literally mimics what a human would do with one click? So he did that. He spent the whole year. He put tons and tons of money into it. And by the end of the year, they had something that didn't break finally. And he launched that to the public. And that is content at scale. This January, when I was looking for a human-like AI content writer, it was the only one that did real-time research, went and wrote and formatted a 3,000-word article that was fully original, had nothing duplicate or plagiarized. And when I asked Justin, how did you make this magic happen? Where in less than 5 minutes, I put in a keyword and I have an article for less than $20 for the type of article at the exact level of quality I used to sell for over $900. No joke, which I'm not doing anymore. Left that world to work in this one. So when I asked him, how did you do this? It's a stack of three to four, actually might be more at this point, LLMs. And I would say this news is probably neutral for us because something Justin has told us, he has a full-time team of developers. It's not just him. It's an amazing group of people. We actually have a lead developer from Spotify leading our development team as well. But, he's like, if OpenAI and ChatGPT were to disappear tomorrow, we would learn the next LLM and put that into the software. And I have seen so much from this team, so much adaptability, so much capability of getting with the times, building something innovative. What Jeff talked about, our 40 plus AI agents replicates a team of marketing experts available at just a tap of your finger away. You can summon a brand strategist. Now you still have to humanly curate this stuff. The human is still necessary in this process. People like Josh and Laura working in this field as consultants, people like us building the software that allows content marketers to have a solution. So I would say this news, to answer your question, Fred, is definitely neutral for us. We'll always find the best way to stack our LLMs. We're looking at that daily. How can we make this technology better and provide what is that one-click solution for people that don't want to build their own GPT, don't want to use ChatGPT, but they want a human-like content solution. So that's on our side. That's how we're approaching all of this news.
I haven't even thought about it from that perspective. That's really smart. And when Laura and I created Robot Revolution earlier this year, we were talking about making it software. And my argument was, what happens if the software that it's based on changes, or if something better comes out or whatnot? So even though it's a little bit more crude, you still have, a series of prompts. You copy and paste them, you fill in one variable, and from there you'll have your full sales letter, your emails, your ads, everything else for your marketing. But the beauty of it is, we decided on this because we knew, one day Leonardo could be, or not Leonardo, one day Poe could be really, really good. The next day there was one called Llama, which I don't think is there anymore, one called Playground, which nobody uses. But they were coming and going, and each of them did stuff really well. And so in the very first videos where you're learning how to go through the Mobile Revolution system, we tell you, try it out in different LLMs. See what output you like the best. And this way we would have the freedom, if something were to happen, great, we can pivot on a dime. You guys have a huge team of developers that are going to be able to do this around the clock. So you're going to have very minimal to zero downtime, if any. We kind of approached it in a different way, but we both understood that this could one day be a problem. We needed to figure it out now.
Right.
Smart.
I mean, and the other thing is that, any of this stuff is only as good as somebody's able to recognize what is good and what isn't. So, there's no kind of getting away from having, it might be minimal, but human assistance to know, what's working and what's not. And that's why I don't worry about my job, because I just, you try to do what Josh does or what I do. It's not going to happen. Good luck.
Well, like when the tractor came out, right? The farmer didn't go away. They just sat in the driver's seat of that tractor. And that's what you and Josh are doing. You're not running, and me too. Like, I left the content agency life. I had 100 writers. It was all manual. I am not doing that anymore. I will tell you, you need AI. It's a better solution. But we got to become the farmers here.
Yeah. No, that's a good analogy. It really is a great analogy, actually. So there you go. And,
there you go.
Fingers don't get quite as dirty. Yeah, I like that. I have this one thing that I've always had when I write, and I'm a good writer, but I get what I call creative constipation, where I look and I'm trying to come up with. And
I've never heard that.
Yeah, AI kind of handles that for me. Yeah, I'm sorry, I probably should have said that live, but yeah.
Oh, it's made me so lazy, which is a good and bad thing. But I spent 17 years as a direct response copywriter, marketer, and painstakingly working on every single word of the sales letter. And now I'm just such a lazy bum. I'm like, all right, give me an ad about this and that. I don't even take the time to describe it well because I know the output will still be good.
That's how I am with consonant scale. I'm like, I don't need to blog anymore. Oh, here's a keyword. Yeah. It's good though, right? Because like we can spend more time with our families or go build cooler things than write content.
I find that it's given me the opportunity to branch out on other things that I find interesting.
Yes.
I mean, you're trying to figure out, especially when you're a small agency like I am, different social, like, okay, well, what do you do with YouTube? What's the difference with this one? And But it's also, I also like it for, like I was explaining to Josh the other day, like I had a client who had a Google listing that came from the Securities and Exchange Commission that was wrong, okay? And it said something about them having an enforcement action, which is actually untrue. So they complained to Google. Google pulled it down. But then, of course, when everything gets re-indexed, it shows up again, right? There's no way to permanently do that. And I was racking my brains out like, well, how am I going to get the SEC to change something on their website? And I went to ChatGPT and they gave me a great suggestion, which was to email the webmaster. And it actually gave me the email address for the webmaster. And then I went on that page and I also saw that there was a data feeds guy, which was more likely the guy that it was. And so I wrote something, and then I went back into chat and said, can you tighten this up so that it's kind of pro and blah, blah, blah. And I emailed it out. And 3 weeks later, I didn't get a response, but that link is no longer showing up in that search. So, I mean, totally and completely not what you'd think you'd be using it for, but it was absolutely incredibly helpful. I mean, I even got in touch with some of my, kind of black hat SEO guys and said, hey, what would you do? And they're like, it's SEC, don't touch it. So I was like, that's not helping. I'm going to have to come up with
really smart way to use ChatGPT though. It's like to ask it because it's, AI, especially open and ChatGPT has access to billions of data points that our brain never will. And it knows so much. So that's a great use case.
Yeah. So that was the, there you go.
I think it's the question for you, Laura.
It's called Typing Mind, and it's not actually a tool to download conversations for ChatGPT. It's actually another a user interface for ChatGPT and Anthropic. But one of the things you're able to do with that is export all your chats from ChatGPT and import them in so that you have them there. And it's it's a great tool. I don't know. I have a lifetime. I maybe paid $50 for it. I think it's a little bit more expensive now, but it does things that you can't do in ChatGPT. Like you can do subfolders. Like I have clients, so I have subfolders in that has all the client data in that and whatnot. So it's there's that and some other things, and they have identities. So it doesn't have GPTs, but it has a content marketer, social media manager, human resources, so, and you can also save series of prompts yourself so that you don't have to keep re-inputting them. So there's other things that, like I said, it's just a better thought out interface. That's all.
Very helpful.
Because it's the APIs, and you can say, okay, well, in this case, I'd rather use Claude, and in this case, I'd rather use ChatGPT, and it's all in one spot.
That's a great tool recommendation. Yeah.
I wish I had an affiliate link for the amount of people. Said something, but it's all good.
Well, this was a great, I was going to say 45 minutes, but we're almost at an hour. This is a great hour. And I love that we had so many people joining us for the live. I wasn't sure, on a random Monday afternoon, but this is the news of the hour, guys. So we had people totally joining in on this. And it looks like Byron said he got an email from Google that said November is in full swing. So good timing.
Yeah, somebody thought of that last night at like midnight.
You know it. You know it. Oh, well, let's do last minute. I want us all to share what we're working on so people can jump in, take advantage, and think about if you have anything running for Black Friday. So Josh, I'll start with you. How can people follow you, take advantage of? Do you have a Black Friday offer coming up? Tell us about that.
So we were working on something, Laura and I, and this kind of maybe put a little bit of a wrench in it. So we are going to be doing something. We're just going to got to go back to the drawing board and we'll see what's up. But if you want to follow me, my main site is smartaiventures.com. And from there, you can see all the different ways that we work with different businesses to help them with AI. That's including Robot Revolution, which is robotrevolution.ai. That's the marketing copywriting program that Laura and I put together that took many, many months.
Amazing. Very cool. Laura's, how can we follow you? Same.
My marketing agency, which is Yada Yada Marketing, you can reach me there, or laurabetterly.com, which has a conglomeration of all the things that I've done. Or just find me on Facebook, Laura Betterly. I mean, I'm the only one. You know, there's a page and there's the content, whatever. But you know, you can, yeah. I mean, and I run that myself, so you can usually if you DM me, I can or post something. You'll find me. I'm not too hard to.
Yeah, you can find me, Josh Rosenberg, on Facebook and LinkedIn and all that as well.
Yeah,
good stuff. Yeah. Definitely connect with them. For those of you watching, good people to follow. Jeff, how about you? How can we?
You can find me at Jeff Joyce on LinkedIn, Facebook. Also, if you have any questions about our platform, feel free to email me, jeff@contentscale.ai. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, especially about this topic, because it's awesome. But yeah,
the best. We love you.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, I think y'all know Jeff and I both work at Content Scale. You can learn more about Content Scale at contentscale.ai. And we do have a Black Friday sale coming up. That will be announced to our list Friday. It's only that day, so keep your eyes peeled. It is half off the blogging course that I just launched, How to Blog with AI. Build an empire, either buy and flip websites, build them up with AI content, or build your own consulting service. So that course is full of goodness, and that's going on sale at half off, one day only. And then we have a special Content Scale offer launching that day too. So if you're on our email list, and if you're not, go sign up, contentscale.ai, so you can hear all about that Black Friday offer.
Awesome.
So I think we will go ahead and wrap up. Josh and Laura, I just want to say thank you so much for hopping on last minute and talking through. You're both a wealth of knowledge on this topic. I love how you've really stayed up with this news.
Well, thanks. Thank you for having us. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. And you too, Jeff. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you in 2 seconds in our Slack.
Yeah.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Thank you all for watching. Bye.
Bye.